Once upon a time, in the bustling heart of Ibadan, there lived a young woman named Rebecca. She was poor, an orphan, and barely noticed by the world around her. The only place she called home was the corner of a small laundry shop, where a worn mat served as her bed and a single cup and plate were her treasures. People said Rebecca had nothing, but in her heart she whispered gratitude for the little she had. People also said she had peace in her poverty, but they did not know storms were gathering. For the life she clung to was about to change. That morning was bright and deceptive, the kind of morning where the sun promised joy but the earth prepared sorrow. Rebecca sat quietly with a bowl of soaked gari, her eyes heavy but her spirit determined. She did not know that in the next few breaths, her fragile life would be shattered. The shop bell rang, and in walked Gloria, wealthy, radiant, dressed in yellow lace that shimmered like the sun itself. She carried herself with the arrogance of a queen, her perfume filling the small room like a cloud of judgment. Rebecca, startled and clumsy, collided with Gloria at the doorway. The splash of water was quick, but its impact was deadly. The gown, worth more than Rebecca's yearly wage, was stained. Gloria's shriek tore through the shop like thunder. "Are you blind?" she spat, staring at the drenched fabric. Rebecca dropped to her knees at once, her hands trembling. "Please, Ma, forgive me. It was a mistake." But Gloria's voice was sharp and merciless. "This dirty girl dares touch me. She must pay." The shop owner, a tired man whose livelihood depended on Gloria's patronage, bowed under pressure. Despite Rebecca's desperate pleas, he cast her out. "I cannot lose my customer," he muttered, guilt in his eyes but fear in his heart. Rebecca cried, her face pressed to the dusty floor, but no mercy came. The proud woman smirked, her heels clicking as she left, her power unquestioned. The proverb says, "When a lion roars, the bush grows silent." And in that moment, Rebecca's voice was swallowed by Gloria's roar. Night fell heavy over the city. The streets that bustled in daylight grew empty, save for the groan of passing cars. Rebecca wandered, clutching her small bundle of clothes, her stomach empty and her soul heavier still. Her feet carried her to an abandoned building, its walls half-built and ghostly under the moon. She climbed inside, lay her head on the cold cement, and whispered, "God, please help me." The stars above offered no answer. The night was long, the air biting. Rebecca's dreams were haunted by memories of the shop, the only home she knew now lost. When dawn broke, it brought not relief but new challenges. The sound of men's voices jolted her awake. A group of construction workers marched in, their boots pounding against the floor. Tools clinked, helmets gleamed. Their eyes landed on Rebecca curled in a corner, and suspicion darkened their faces. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" one demanded. Rebecca's knees shook, but her voice was firm. "Please, sir, I have nowhere to go. Let me work. I can carry blocks, I can mix cement. I will do anything." The men exchanged looks, some amused, some pitying. "This is not work for a girl," one muttered, shaking his head. But Rebecca stood straighter, her eyes burning. "I am stronger than I look. Please, just give me a chance." The men hesitated. It was not custom to see a woman on the site, much less one so small and frail. Yet there was something in her voice, something that made them pause. At last, one said, "Wait for the boss. If he agrees, you can stay." And with that, Rebecca's fragile hope flickered to life. As the men returned to their tasks, the air filled with the smell of wet cement and the steady rhythm of hammers. Rebecca sat quietly, her eyes fixed on the dust rising in the sunlight. Her world had ended in that laundry shop, but perhaps here, among the rubble, a new beginning could take root. Still, shadows loomed. For though she did not yet know it, her destiny was already entangled with Gloria's, and the path ahead would be paved with betrayal, secrets, and fire. Morning hardened into heat, and the sight woke like a drum. Rebecca tied a faded scarf over her hair, rolled her sleeves, and lifted her first block. The cement bit her palms, dust turned her lashes grey. Men watched, half amused, half curious, as she crossed the yard again and again with the stubborn rhythm of someone bargaining with fate. When the buckets came for mixing, she knelt and churned the slurry until it gleamed like wet stone. No one told her when to rest, she did not ask. The sun pressed down, the wind carried grit, her breath came in small, controlled fires. By noon the jokes softened into nods. A foreman handed her a plastic cup of water and a small wrap of akara from a hawker's tray by the gate. She thanked him, palms together, and ate in quick, reverent bites, the pepper stinging her tongue back to life. A radio crackled high on a scaffold, high life poured into the open air, brass and laughter, while a woman in bright ankara sold sachet water and roasted plantain at the roadside. The world, simple and loud, went on. Rebecca, small inside it, kept moving. He arrived quietly, a white Hilux rolling through the half-built pillars. David. His shirt was crisp, his boots clean, his face the unreadable mask of a man whose signature changed other people's weather. He greeted the foreman with a short nod, eyes sweeping the lines, the angles, the money made visible. Then he saw her, the girl too slight for the burden on her head, the one who walked like work was a prayer. His gaze tightened, not with pity, but with attention. She set down her load, wiped her brow with the edge of her scarf, and went back for more. "Who is she?" he asked. "A stray from the night," the foreman replied. "Says she has no home. Works like she is chasing something that keeps slipping." David watched a moment longer. Rebecca lifted another tray, misjudged the balance, and the blocks clattered to the ground. Shame flared hot on her cheeks. She crouched to gather them, fingers trembling. "Leave it," a worker said, impatient. She shook her head and rebuilt the load, brick by brick, the way one rebuilds a life when no one will help. He walked to her, his shadow falling over the fallen pieces. "What is your name?" "Rebecca, sir." "How long have you been here?" "Since morning." Since last night." Her voice held even, but her eyes were tired wells. He heard more than she said. "This is not light work," he said. "I am not light either," she answered softly. "I am stubborn." Something like a smile touched his mouth and vanished. "Work today. We will speak later." And she did. When afternoon leaned toward evening, the sky burnished and the air cooled, she was still carrying, still mixing, still refusing to collapse. The proverb says, "The calabash that floats today has swallowed water all night." She had swallowed enough sorrow to make a fleet. At dusk he left the site, but her figure kept returning to him as a budgerbound calls crowded his car. A name slid into his mind like a thorn, Gloria. It was at the laundry later, his suits crisply bagged, the owner nervous and talkative, that the thorn drew blood. "Sir, that girl, Rebecca, used to sleep here. Madame Gloria said I must throw her out. I had no choice." The words dropped between them like stones. In the soft, expensive interior of his car, a small discomfort grew into a weather system. Gloria's laughter, all glass and gold, rose in his memory. He had admired her brilliance, her taste, the way rooms rearranged for her. But cruelty was a fragrance that never washed off. Kindness was a language Gloria did not speak. He told himself he was being dramatic, told himself not to interfere. Then he remembered the look on the girl's face when she rebuilt the fallen load. Night thickened like palm oil. On his way home, headlights washed over a slim figure by the roadside. She hugged a bundle to her chest, stepping out of puddles the moon could not find. He braked before thought could argue. The window slid down, dust rose to greet him. "Rebecca," he called. She stilled, wary as a stray. "Get in," he said. "It is not safe." "I don't want trouble, sir." "I am not trouble," he answered, and for once he believed it. In the car, the air conditioner hummed, the city's noise stayed outside the glass. She sat small, alert, her hands clasped around that thin bundle. He did not ask for her story. Stories told themselves when the body was this tired. Instead he asked, "Have you eaten?" She shook her head. He stopped at a roadside joint where steam lifted from steel pots. He bought jollof rice, grilled fish dusted with suya spice, and a cold malt. She ate carefully, with the gratitude of a person who knew food could be a miracle. He watched the way relief softened her shoulders, watched the way dignity did not leave her even when hunger had. Back on the road, he made the turn without announcing it, to the gated estate, to the wide drive, to a house designed to impress men like himself. The guard opened without question. The lights came on like dawn trapped inside walls. Rebecca's reflection bruised the glass girl and ghost, and she swallowed hard. "You will stay here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow, we will see." "Sir, I can sleep by the gatehouse," she offered, bargaining against her own fear. "You will sleep in a room," he replied, tone gentle but not negotiable. Inside, the marble breathed cool, the chandelier dripped light, the carpet swallowed footsteps. Somewhere deeper in the house, a scent like tuberose and victory loitered, Gloria's perfume, the signature of a woman who left marks. The house knew her. So did the staff. So did the man who now led a stranger down the corridor toward a guest room no one had used in months. He paused at the door. "Rebecca." "Yes, sir." "Tomorrow I will ask questions," he said. "Tonight you will sleep." She nodded. Her eyes shone and did not spill. The door closed softly, the first mercy of the night. Outside, the city throbbed. Inside, silence pooled like shade beneath an iroko. Two worlds touched and held their breath. Somewhere unseen, a fuse burned toward a future that would not be refused. Three truths hovered in the hall like owls. A man can be rich and still be poor in judgment. A woman can be small and still carry a country on her back. And the house that welcomed pity tonight would soon host a storm. The mansion that night was a palace wrapped in quiet, but its walls knew tension better than peace. Rebecca woke early, her body still sore from days of cement and cold floors. She tied her wrapper tightly and stepped into the wide kitchen, its polished tiles gleaming like water. She fetched water, swept the veranda, and scrubbed the steps as though each stroke might repay her debt. To her, work was dignity. But in that house, it was the beginning of war. From the staircase came Gloria. Draped in silk, golden earrings dancing against her neck, she looked every inch the queen she believed herself to be. Her perfume arrived before her words, heavy and deliberate. When her eyes fell on Rebecca, she froze, lips curling in disbelief. "David," her voice rang out, sharp enough to cut glass. "What is this girl doing here?" Rebecca bowed her head. "Good morning, Ma." "Don't good morning me," Gloria snapped, stepping closer, her heels stabbing the tiles. "This is the same girl who ruined my dress at the laundry. And you bring her into my house." David entered, his shirt sleeves rolled from an early meeting, his tone calm. "She had nowhere to go. I could not leave her on the street." Gloria laughed, bitter and theatrical. "Do you know what people will say? A maid in the house of your fiancé? Are you trying to shame me?" David's eyes narrowed. "No one shames you, Gloria. But kindness is not shame." That night Rebecca ate alone in the kitchen. Gloria had ordered that she not touch the family food, leaving her with nothing but a small piece of yam she had hidden. She sat by the cold stove, whispering grace before eating. Hunger burned, but it was pride that Gloria wanted to starve. Days turned into weeks, and Rebecca endured. She scrubbed the marble floors until they gleamed, watered the garden until the hibiscus bowed with color, and ironed David's shirts with careful hands. Every task she performed with silent humility, even as Gloria's mockery grew sharper. Yet something shifted. David, always weary from the burdens of business, began to notice the light Rebecca carried. In the evenings, when he returned to a house heavy with Gloria's complaints, it was Rebecca who met him at the door with a smile. "Welcome, sir. How was your day?" she asked softly, and for the first time in years, someone truly waited for his answer. He found himself speaking more. It was long. Meetings, endless figures. She would nod gently, listening as though his words mattered. And when she offered to make him tea, just tea, his chest warmed more than the drink itself. Gloria noticed. One evening, She watched from the corner as David handed Rebecca a parcel. "This is for you," he said. Inside lay a simple but beautiful dress. Rebecca's hands trembled as she held it to her chest, tears spilling. "Thank you, sir. No one has ever given me a gift." Gloria's eyes burned like fire. "So now you buy gifts for maids," she sneered, her voice loud enough to echo through the hall. "David, do you think I am blind? You favor her over me." David's jaw tightened. "It is just a dress, Gloria. Nothing more." But Gloria saw more, much more. Jealousy coiled around her heart like a snake. That night, as Rebecca hung the dress by her bed, Gloria entered with quiet steps. With one cruel smile, she snatched it and carried it outside. Rebecca followed, her voice pleading, "Please, Ma, don't. It means everything to me." Gloria's answer was flame. She held the fabric to fire, and Rebecca's tears reflected the orange glow as the cloth turned to ash. "This is what happens when you reach for what is not yours," Gloria whispered, her eyes sharp as blades. Rebecca knelt on the ground, clutching the charred remains. She said nothing. But in her silence was a cry that pierced the night. The proverb says, "A calabash broken in anger still spills its water." Gloria's anger had spilled, but what it drowned would soon rise against her. David saw Rebecca the next morning, dressed again in her ragged clothes. He frowned. "Why aren't you wearing the new dress?" Her lips parted, but Gloria's glare from the corner silenced her. Rebecca lowered her eyes. "I am saving it for a special day." David's heart stirred with unease. In her silence, he heard more truth than her words. Gloria smiled from the shadows, but it was the smile of a snake that knows the next strike is near. And so the house became a battlefield, Rebecca's quiet kindness on one side, Gloria's furious jealousy on the other, and David caught in the middle, a man watching his world tilt toward storm. The house grew darker with every passing day, though the lights glittered and the marble gleamed. Rebecca moved like a shadow, working silently, her spirit bruised but unbroken. Gloria, however, moved like fire, sudden, consuming, and unpredictable. One morning she summoned Rebecca with a voice sweet as honey. "Come, sit," she said, patting the velvet couch where no servant had ever been invited to rest. Rebecca hesitated but obeyed. Gloria's smile was unsettling. "I've treated you badly, and for that, I am sorry," she began, her tone dripping with false warmth. "Let us start anew. Consider me your elder sister." Rebecca blinked in confusion, then whispered, "I hold no grudge, Ma. I am grateful for your kindness." Gloria leaned closer, her eyes gleaming. "Good. Then do me a small favor. Cook me some noodles. I'm craving them." Rebecca's heart lifted, mistaking this for peace. She hurried into the kitchen, preparing the simple meal with care. When she set the steaming bowl before Gloria, she felt almost relieved. But the peace was a mask. Minutes later, Gloria screamed, her voice echoing through the mansion, "Rebecca, so you want to poison me?" Rebecca froze, her heart pounding. "No, Ma. I would never," she cried, trembling. Gloria flung the spoon aside, tears streaming dramatically down her face. "David, she's trying to kill me." David rushed in, confusion painting his face. "What is going on?" Gloria pointed at Rebecca, shaking with false fear. "She laced my food. I saw her." Rebecca's knees weakened. "I swear, sir, I did not. I was only trying to help." But Gloria kept wailing, her performance flawless. David looked between them, torn. Then Rebecca did the unthinkable. She grabbed the bowl, scooped a spoonful, and ate before anyone could stop her. "See," she cried, her voice breaking. "There is nothing in this food." But within moments, pain ripped through her stomach. She gasped, clutching herself, collapsing to the floor. David shouted her name, his voice filled with panic, as Rebecca writhed in agony. Gloria's lips twisted into a hidden smile. The siren of the car carried Rebecca to the hospital, David's arms cradling her frail body. "Hold on," he whispered, his own hands trembling. Machines beeped, nurses rushed, but all he saw was her pale face against the white sheets. Hours later, when Rebecca finally stirred, her voice was faint. "What happened?" David's eyes were storm-dark. "The doctor said you ingested poison, but you are safe now. I checked the cameras, Rebecca. I saw everything. Gloria put something in that bowl. She set you up." Rebecca's eyes widened, tears spilling freely. "Why, sir? What have I ever done to her?" David's voice was low but fierce. "Because she feared you. Because cruelty is all she knows. But this ends now." That night, he returned home. Gloria sat in the living room, feigning innocence. David's voice was steady, almost cold. "Pack your things. Leave my house." Gloria's face crumbled. "David, please." He raised a hand. "Don't lie to me. I have proof. If I call the police, you will lose more than me. Leave, before I change my mind." For the first time, Gloria trembled. Pride cracked in her eyes as she gathered her jewels and clothes, leaving behind the perfume that once claimed the air. Her heels clicked down the marble one last time, but their echo was hollow. Rebecca, fragile but alive, returned to the mansion days later. The staff greeted her with quiet respect, no longer seeing just a maid but a survivor of betrayal. David welcomed her home with gentle words, but in his chest burned something deeper. He had seen her humility, her strength, her resilience under fire, and it had awakened a truth he could no longer ignore. The proverb says, "The knife that cuts yam can also cut the hand that feeds it." Gloria's schemes had cut herself away, and Rebecca's light, once dimmed, now shone brighter than ever. Rebecca's return to the mansion was like dawn breaking after a storm. Her steps were slower, her body still frail from the poison, but her spirit glowed with a quiet resilience that could not be crushed. David watched her closely, guilt heavy in his chest. He had brought her under his roof, yet she had nearly lost her life. Now, with Gloria gone, the silence of the house was no longer filled with tension but with possibility. One afternoon, he sat by her bedside, his tone uncharacteristically gentle. "Rebecca," he said, "you have endured what no one should. You didn't deserve this pain. You told me once you wished you could return to school. I've arranged it. The fees are paid. You'll have a chance to chase your dreams." Her eyes widened, tears shimmering. "Sir, you would do that for me?" David nodded firmly. "You are family now. And family takes care of each other." It was the first time Rebecca felt the weight of belonging. She smiled through her tears, clutching the sheets as though they anchored her to a new life. The days that followed were tender. She studied, worked in the house, and shared small, unspoken moments with David. In the evenings, he would find her in the garden, humming softly while watering the hibiscus flowers, the same ones she had once tended as a servant. Now she cared for them as if they mirrored her own growth. Weeks turned into months, and something deeper bloomed. David, once guarded, found his heart opening in ways he never expected. One evening, as dusk painted the sky crimson, he called her into the living room. His voice was low, unshaken. "Rebecca, I must speak the truth. Your humility, your kindness, your strength, they have changed me. I cannot deny it anymore. I have fallen in love with you." Rebecca froze, her heart pounding. "But, sir, I am just." He stopped her with a gentle shake of his head. "It is not about where you come from, but who you are. And you, Rebecca, are extraordinary." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She had no words, only the rush of warmth that flooded her chest. For the first time, she was not invisible. For the first time, she was cherished. Months later, David stood before her again, this time with a velvet box in his hand. "I want you to be my wife," he said, his voice steady. She gasped, overwhelmed, but his eyes told her it was real. With trembling hands she nodded, whispering, "Yes." Their wedding was small but filled with love. Friends and family gathered, the scent of jollof rice and roasted chicken filling the air, drums rolling as Rebecca walked down the aisle in a simple white gown. David's eyes never left her. When they exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the hall. The orphan girl who once slept on cold cement was now a bride, standing in dignity and joy. Rebecca's life transformed. With David's support, she returned to school and later founded a home for young girls who had none. She became a symbol of hope, living proof that resilience and humility could change destiny. And yet, even in triumph, the echoes of her past remained. She often remembered the laundry shop, the abandoned building, the blocks of cement that tested her body. She remembered Gloria's laughter and Gloria's cruelty, but also the moment fire turned to ash and ash turned to new beginnings. The proverb says, "Rain may soak the earth, but it also makes the ground fertile." Rebecca's suffering had been her rain, and from it grew a future brighter than she ever dreamed. The house that once trembled with quarrels now brimmed with laughter. And in the quiet of night, when the lamps dimmed and the garden whispered with the rustle of leaves, Rebecca would rest her head knowing she was no longer alone. The girl who was cast out had become the woman who was chosen. The house that once echoed with silence now sang with love.